All right, we're in a series, right, called Nourish, and we've been looking at 8 habits of a healthy soul. Now, caring for your soul is a challenge for anyone, especially moms, right? Caring for your soul is a challenge for anyone. And so what I want to look at it today is all of us look at it kind of through the eyes of a mom, through the eyes of a mother, and what we can all learn about caring for our soul, all right? And 8 habits of a healthy soul. So, point 1, here it is. Healthy souls make a habit of talking to God about everything. This is the point. This is what we're going to zero in on. This is what we're going to sit on. This is what we're going to think about. If we're looking at 8 habits of a healthy soul, here's the one we look at this morning. Healthy souls make a habit of talking to God about everything. They make a habit of talking to God about everything. So here's a verse in the Bible, 1 Thessalonians, one of the shortest verses in Scripture. Pray without ceasing. Healthy souls make a habit of this. They make a habit of it. Prayer is basically talking to God. That's what prayer is. And so healthy souls. How do you find health in your soul? Well, what they do is throughout the day, they have a running conversation with God. There's an awareness of His presence in their life, and the line is always open. The conversation is never totally off. There's just, God's always there, and it's very natural for them to converse and to be able, you get the feel of it. Healthy souls make a habit of talking to God about everything. It's just a part of the practice of their lives. Philippians 4:6 says this: don't be anxious about anything, but in everything, by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. And so what healthy souls do is they take every anxious-producing issue of their lives, every anxious-producing issue of their lives, and they talk to God about it. They go, I got to talk to God. I got to call Him. I got to talk to God. They take it to God. So moms, the typical mom has a fair number of anxious-producing situations in their lives, right? So moms with healthy souls, they're taking it all. They're taking it, man. They're taking everything, every situation that produces any kind of anxiety or they're taking that. Those are the kind of things that they do. Jesus showed up one day at the temple, and something really set Him off. Next thing you know, He starts throwing tables. Then they must have had quite the security system guys we have around here. But anyway, He starts throwing tables, and then he starts throwing people out, including the security system. And you're going, well, what in the world set Jesus off to that extreme? What was the problem? Did they run out of coffee? Jesus came to the temple and there wasn't any coffee. Did somebody take His seat? Did He go to sit down and somebody's sitting in my pew? Is that what ticked Him off? Did He not like the music? What was Jesus so upset about that He's throwing tables and throwing people? Here's what it was. Mark chapter 11. He was teaching and said to them, is it not written, in my house shall be called a house of prayer for all the nations, but you have made it a den of robbers. So this is what set Jesus off in the extreme. I mean, He makes a whip, and this was a scene. If you came up and saw this, you'd be going, what in the world is going on here? I remember a lot of you missed it, but I remember the Sunday morning after second service, some people were all gathering out there, and I'm out in the circle, and a fight broke out. It was like, hey, we got a fight breaking out at church. What in the world's going on, right? So imagine Jesus in the temple doing what He's doing. He's pretty ticked. And here's what it was. He says, the temple's a place for you to meet God. The temple's a place for you to bring your life and to bring your conversation, and it's for you to encounter God, and you guys are distracting people from doing this. Jesus knew that their eternal destiny and the health of their soul is dependent on whether or not they could get to and encounter and have a conversation with God. And so the people had to get through this religious flea market, first of all. They're going through there, and they're traveling from all kinds of places because the temple in Jerusalem was a designated place. You want to meet God, you got to come to the temple. So they're traveling from around places, and they had to bring a sacrifice, but they couldn't travel with their animal sacrifices, so they would buy them near the temple. Oh, and there just happened to be some guys setting up a booth. And so you say, okay, I need to buy a sacrifice, and you go up, and they say, well, you don't have the right money, man. You got money from out of town. We only take this special kind of money. We only take church money. And so seriously, yeah, so you got to go over here. This guy will change your money for you. So he goes over there. Horrible exchange rate. He gets ripped off over here. Then he's got to go over and buy this animal from this guy who just happens to have it, and you're not getting a good deal here. And all of this is going on. The way, hey, you want to buy a t-shirt? Hey, you want to do this? You want to do this? And Jesus says, I had it. And he clears the place. And he says, people need to come here to pray. Their soul depends on it. David, a guy named David Paulson, this is a great statement. I love the way he puts this. He says, prayer is meant to be the conversation where your life and your God meet. What is prayer? It's the conversation where your life and your God meet. See, at these contact points, it's at these points of conversation that the healthy soul has throughout the day, their life and their God meet throughout the day. It's these point of conversations where something supernatural happens. Your soul is energized, your soul is strengthened, your soul is encouraged, you find hope, you find wisdom, your soul is healed, your soul is comforted, and a degree of health is restored to your soul. This series is called Nourish. What are the habits of a healthy soul? Well, here's one of them. They talk to God about everything all the time. They take their life and God, and they meet. They meet. Do you see it here in Psalm 42? Listen to the psalmist. Do you see this feel, this heart? As the deer pants for flowing streams, so pants my soul for you, O God. My soul thirsts for God, for the living God. When shall I come and appear before God? Do you hear something in there? This is a soul that goes, I need to stay healthy. My soul's thirsty. My soul, like a deer, is panting. My soul is yearning. My soul is longing. I have to go meet and talk to God. Okay? I got to have this conversation. Healthy souls make a habit of meeting with God, talking to God about everything. That's just everything. What do you pray about? Everything. Let's spend an hour alone praying. What in the world am I going to talk? What in the world how in the world can I pray for longer than 5 minutes, for longer than 15 minutes, for longer? Well, how about your life, man? How about all the issues going on in your mind right now? All the things spinning around, all the anxious thought, all the dreams you have, all the stuff. Talk to him. All right, so I'm going to look at now why these conversations, secondly, why these conversations with God are so nourishing. You say, wow, how can How can it be? See, for healthy souls, look at praying. That's what we're talking about this morning. For a healthy soul, praying is not a religious ritual. Okay, it's time to pray. Oh, okay. For a healthy soul, it's not a religious ritual. It's not reciting prescribed prayers. Oh, I got to pray. Okay, where's my prescribed going through my thing or going through the, It's not a Christian duty. For healthy souls, prayer is not a Christian duty for them. It's like, this is, no, prayer. When they think pray, they think air in my soul. When they think prayer, they think nourishment for my soul. When they think pray, they go, yes, that's where I get my strength. You see, it's a whole different. For the healthy soul, these conversations are nourishing to them. And that's how they see them. So I want to press into, well, why is that the case? Maybe when you pray, you don't necessarily find it that nourishing, or maybe you go to prayer with a different mindset. Well, let me say why, a couple reasons why. Because when healthy souls pray, something happens to you when you know, first of all, that God sees and He cares. There's something happens to you when you know that God sees and He cares. A guy named William Timaeus, he said, you don't really understand human nature unless you know why a child on a merry-go-round will wave at his parents every time around, and why his parents will always wave back. You do not understand human nature unless you know why this happens. So all of us here this morning are not parents, we are not mothers. There's a lot of us here that aren't mothers. It's Mother's Day. We're not mothers. In fact, raise your hand if you're not a mother. Look around. That's a lot of people here on Mother's Day. A lot of us aren't mothers, right? But listen, Hillary Price says it this way. We were all once children, though. And children like to be watched. It's not unusual at all when my granddaughters come over to my house. Papa, look. Papa, look. Right? A young boy gets a hit, slides into second base, dusts himself off, stands up on second base. What's the first thing he does? He's looking for his dad or his mom in the stands. The little girl comes out. It's in all the movies. It's in all the movies, right? Little girl's got a rehearsal. Little girl's got a part in the play. Little girl, are you going to be there? Are the parents going to be there? And all the movie, there's an empty seat. Oh no! It's a crisis. Why? Because every child knows. Every child wants to be. Does somebody see? Hagar was a woman caught in the middle of a major domestic mess. She was in the middle of a mess. Hagar was an Egyptian servant of Sarah, the wife of Abraham. So, I've heard Abraham and Sarah. Abraham was given promises by God that he would be the father of a nation, right? Well, over here is kind of an extra in the movie, but not quite an extra, is Hagar. How'd you like her role in life? How'd you like to get her hand dealt to you? She's Egyptian, and she's not married, and she's the servant of Sarah. Well, God promised Abraham that he would have children, and the family would grow into a great nation. But 10 years later, 10 years of trying, Sarah suggests that Abraham try with Hagar. Now, some of you are going, what? It was the legal custom of the day. Well, that doesn't make it right. That's right. It doesn't make it right. And God never is it. It doesn't make it right is exactly right. But it was like, hey, this is the way everybody does it, right? And so, and it was legal. You could really get the family line, so Hagar gets pregnant. And then Sarah gets ticked at Abraham. You following this? Sarah says, honey, here. So then she gets pregnant. And then Sarah gets ticked at Abraham. Abraham's thinking, hey, this was your idea. But he doesn't say that, right? He's a wise man. But what Abraham does say to Sarah is, honey, look, do whatever will make you happy. Honey, look, I know you're ticked off. Yeah, you're ticked. Look. Do whatever you want. Do whatever makes you happy. And so Sarah did. And she drives Hagar out of the house. All right? Are you tracking with Hagar? Are you tracking with this lady? Now she's homeless. Now she's single, she's homeless, she's discarded, and she's pregnant. Where's she going to go? She goes the only place, where are you going to go? Well, I guess I'll go back to Egypt. On her way back to Egypt, God meets her. The Lord meets her. And he says to her, Hagar, you're going to have a baby boy. And here's what I want you to name him. I want you to name him Ishmael. You know what that means? It means God hears. Hagar's life met God. Hagar has a conversations where her life and God meet. And listen to her. Her soul gets encouraged. Her soul finds strength. She goes back to Abraham and Sarah. She has hope. You say, what in the world happened? Well, I'll let you have Hagar tell you what happened. Here it is in Genesis chapter 16. Listen to what Hagar says. Genesis 16. She gave this name to the Lord. So she meets the Lord. She gives a name. Hagar gave this name to the Lord who spoke to her. You are the God who sees me. For she said, I have seen the one who sees me. It's hard to put in words what happens, but when you come into prayer and you go, God, I'm bringing you my life, and you know He sees you. Nicole Johnson wrote this piece called I Am Invisible. She's a mom. I am invisible. It all began to make sense. The blank stares, the lack of response, the way one of the kids will walk into the room while I'm on the phone and asked to be taken to the store. Inside, I'm thinking, can't you see I'm on the phone? Obviously not. No one can see if I'm on the phone or cooking or sweeping the floor or even standing on my head in the corner because no one can see me at all. I'm invisible. Some days I'm only a pair of hands, nothing more. Can you fix this? Can you tie this? Can you open this? Some days I'm not a pair of hands. I'm not even a human being. I'm a clock. What time is it? Some days I'm a satellite guide. What number is the Disney Channel? I'm a card order. Right around 5:30, please. I was certain that these were the hands that once held books and the eyes that studied history and the mind that graduated summa cum laude. But now they have disappeared into the peanut butter, never to be seen again. She's going, she's gone. A friend of hers, who she describes as having her life all put together and, kids aren't around, she just flies around and was visiting Europe. Wasn't that nice? And she comes back and brings her a gift. And it was a book. And she thought, what in the world is this lady bringing to me? There was a note on the book that said this, because it was a book about the great cathedrals of Europe. Thank you very much, just what I always wanted. But there's a little note that her friend put on the book: with admiration for the greatness of what you are building when no one sees. She devoured the book, she said. 4 life-changing principles she got from the book about cathedrals in Europe. Number 1, no one can say who built the great cathedrals. We have no record of their names. 2, these builders gave their whole lives for a work that they would never see finished. 3, they made great sacrifices and expected no credit. 4, the passion of their building was fueled by their faith that the eyes of God saw everything. There's a story in the book of a rich man who came to visit the cathedral while it was being built. He saw a workman carving a tiny little bird on the top of a beam, and he was puzzled and asked, "Why are you spending so much time carving a bird on a beam? Because this is going to go up and the roof is on it and no one's ever going to see it." And the workman looked up at him and says, "Because God sees." God sees. Jesus was talking about prayer. And he was talking about the hypocrites that pray. Oh, there's the hypocrites that pray. They're standing out in front of everybody, and they want to be heard by everybody. And then Jesus says this in Matthew 6. He says, "Now for you, but when you pray, go into your room and shut the door and pray to your Father who is in secret, and your Father who sees." When you pray, remember, you have a Father who sees. Who sees in secret, and he will reward you. See, prayer is a conversation with a God who sees. And he cares. He doesn't just go, "Oh yeah, I see you." No. And he cares, right? For 1 Peter 5:7, casting all your anxieties on him. That's what prayer does. Be anxious for nothing, but in everything. So Peter comes at it and says, cast all your anxiety, for he cares for you. You ever notice that caring people get dumped on? People don't unburden their hearts to someone who doesn't care, who doesn't really care, right? People don't unburden their hearts. Moms care. Moms are caring people who must learn to dump on God the cares that are dumped on them, or the cares of this world will crush them. Moms with healthy, strong souls, they get this. God sees and he cares, and I care. And all of a sudden, I'm in the midst of all this caring, and I care, and they care, and they care, and this is going to crush me. And so they know that every single day, all the time, they're always going to a God who sees and a God who cares. Hillary Price was sharing a story. She said she used to help. She was delivering a Mother's Day talk. She said, I used to help in a play school that my son attended. She was a volunteer and would help there. She was on duty one day, and there's a little guy named Joshua who sat right next to her the whole time, and she was shocked because this Joshua was all over the place all the time. But today he was right. She says he was an active little boy. But this morning he was very, very still and very, very focused. And he was building a rocket out of toilet rolls and yogurt pots. And he built this magnificent rocket. Just when he finished, the day was over, and so the parents were all coming to pick up the kids at school. And all the parents were coming except Joshua's mom. Joshua's mom, nowhere to be found. Joshua's mom's not coming. All the other kids are gone. So this lady's here with Joshua's mom, and he's there with his rocket. And then mom finally shows up. she shows up and flying in late, and Joshua stood up. He's so excited. He's so excited to see her, and he held up his rocket, and he said several times, Mom, look at my rocket. Mom never noticed the rocket. Mom's flying in there. Mom's late. Mom's busy. Mom's got places to go. And says, come on, get in the car. Let's go. We got to get going. Come on, let's go. We got to get going. But mom, let's go. We got to get going. And headed to the car, and here goes Joshua. And in the words of Hillary Price, here's what she saw. As I watched him leave, I saw his shoulders slump, and I saw his rocket go down by his side. And he was just trailing it along, hanging limply there. And it no longer looked magnificent. It actually looked pretty worthless, which is just what Joshua felt, because all Joshua wanted his mom to do was look at his rocket. Listen, prayer is soul nourishing because when you take your life to God, when you take your life to God and say, look what I've built, look what I've tried to build. Or you take your life to God and say, man, here's my burdens. And you say to Him, do you see what I've tried to build? Do you see these burdens do you see? And He does. And something just happened. I mean, your soul is nourished. The other reason why in prayer our souls get nourished is because God hears and He answers. He actually hears you when you pray. No, I'm gonna say it again. You go, yeah, I know it. No, I'm gonna say it again. The God of the universe, the God who created the heavens and the earth, the God who spins things, and the God who sustains things, and the God who... Okay, a guy in the church sent me, I'm looking at him, he sent me this video, this clip, 15-minute clip of a TED Talk, and I watched it last night, and it blew my mind. It was unbelievable. It was a physicist. If you know what a TED Talk is, okay, he's a physicist giving a TED Talk, and he's basically dives into this whole thing, and he says, we really can't explain why we're like here, and we're not nothing, but we're here. We know we're here, but we can't explain it because we're getting down here into the physics of it, and it's blowing our minds. And you go, it's God. The whole time he's talking, I'm thinking of the verse in Colossians that said, in Christ, He holds all things together. That's why you and I are sitting here and we're not just evaporated in nothingness. And all the atoms and everything just go every which way. It's because He holds, and guess what? When you talk, He hears you. Are you kidding me? He hears and He answers. That's why, listen to the psalmist in 116. Listen to him. I love the Lord. I love the Lord, the psalmist says. I know you can't read it, trust me. I love the Lord because He heard my voice. He heard my voice. He heard my cry for mercy. Next verse. Because He inclined His ear to me, I will call on Him as long as I live. Do you hear what the psalmist is saying? I love the Lord. I just love the Lord. Why do you love Him? Because He listens to me. Moms, I love my husband. Why do you love your husband? He listens to me. Wow. The psalmist says, I love the Lord. You ask a little kid, why do you love your mom? She listens to me. He says, I love the Lord because He hears my voice. And because He's inclined His ear to me, I'm going to call on Him for the rest of my life. See, do you hear? He's getting nourishment in his soul. How? From the fact that he's talking with God and God actually hears him. Oh, I mean, if he hears me, then I'm gonna talk to him the rest of my life. And that's what healthy souls do. See, listen, God never gets tired of listening. God never gets tired of listening. I'm going to say it again. God never gets tired of listening. You know anybody else that gets tired of listening to you? God never says to you, can you just get to the point? You're in the middle of a thing, and you're in the middle of your prayer, and you're going along, and you'll never hear the voice split heaven and go, will you just get to the point? God doesn't mind if you ramble. God does not mind if you repeat yourself. God is never in a hurry. God always has plenty of time. Now, are you in a hurry? How much time do you got? I can't tell you how many times I've had appointments, been with people, whatever, I'm lunch, this, and they'll get into it, and people start sharing something, and they'll go, I'm sorry, do we have time? Do we have time? Yes, we have time. Okay. And right? God never says, hey, you got to hurry this up. We're running out of time. God never says that. He has unlimited minutes on your plan with him, right? Unlimited data. God says, don't be afraid to tell me anything. No, tell me. Well, I don't know if I should tell you. No, tell me. Tell me, he says. Well, is it okay? Tell me. Well, I feel bad telling you because I can't. That's okay. Tell me. He says, don't be afraid to ask. And he means it. He means it. Some people say, hey, if you need some help, call me. And you go, I'm not sure they really mean that. God says, don't be afraid to ask. I'm serious, he says. Ask me. Ask me. He really does. Listen to this in Matthew chapter 7. Matthew 7. Sorry about this. Oh, there it is. Whoa, there's the light. All right. Listen to Jesus. Jesus is talking about prayer, okay? Ask, and it'll be given to you. Seek, and you'll find. Knock. How do I know if you're standing out there and you want something if you don't ring the doorbell? He knows. But you see what he's saying? You see? Knock. Come on. For everyone who asks receives, and the one who seeks finds, and the one who knocks, it'll be opened. Serious? And which of you will say, well, my goodness. And he said, now, which of you, if his son asks him for bread, is going to give him a stone? Or if he asks for a fish, will give him a serpent? See, I'm glad God sorts my prayer. If he tells me, you can ask me for anything you want, I'm glad he's wise and sovereign and good and a lot smarter than I am, because I realize that some of the things I ask for are really bad for me. I just don't realize it. I think they're good for me, but I'm really asking for a snake. And so what I can do is trust him. I can trust him to say, you ask me for anything and trust me. I'll give you good things. I'm not going to give you a snake. Isn't that nice? That's pretty. And no matter how much you get on the floor like a kid in the grocery store, he's not going to fall. He's not going to fall for it. He's not going to cave. He's not going to go, give him the thing anyway. Well, it's kind of bad for him. Hey, just give him anyway. He's going to shut up. No, God's not going to do that. Okay, isn't it nice? And he says to us, if you then who are evil know how to give good gifts to your children, how much more will your Father who is in heaven give good things to those who ask him? So Paul Miller, in a wonderful book on prayer, Paul E. Miller, called A Praying Life. I know many of you have read this. All of Jesus' teaching on prayer in the Gospels can be summarized with one word: ask. I love that. His greatest concern is that our failure or our reluctance to ask keeps us distant from God. See, God's going, talk with me. Talk with me. He issues the invitation. He hears and he answers. Richard Moore is his name. He grew up in Northern Ireland. He was on his way home from school one day as a 10-year-old, and he was shot with a rubber bullet at point-blank range by a British soldier, and it left him blinded. For as long as he could remember, Richard said that he wanted to meet the soldier that shot him. So 30 years after the incident, he discovered where the soldier lived, wrote a letter ahead of time, said, I would like permission to come and meet you. And so they met face to face because Richard wanted to offer his heartfelt forgiveness to the soldier. Here's what Richard later said about his experience. After that, something peculiar and wonderful happened to me. Something inside of me changed. Something paradoxical. I began to realize that the gift of forgiveness that I thought I was bestowing on the soldier who shot me was actually a gift from God to me. It didn't even matter whether the soldier wanted to be or needed to be forgiven. The gift freed me, leaving me with a sense of serenity and blessedness. All through my boyhood, my mother had wanted the impossible for me, that I would be given back my sight. I even woke up one night to find my dear mother on her knees next to my bed, pleading with God. When I met the soldier and forgave him, I believe my mother's prayers were answered. I was given a new vision, and my real wound, the one that needed healing more than my eyes, was healed. God hears and answers. So in prayer, we bring our conversation in. And so prayer is both conversation with God, but it's also an encounter with God. Tim Keller talks about this. It's like, wait a second, this isn't just me running through a list or me going, okay, you got that? Great, all right, see ya. No. No, it's an encounter. Something happens to us. In prayer, we leave the conversation with God changed. We go, wow, I went into this conversation and now I left the conversation. You have friends like this, I hope. There are people in your life, you go into the conversation, you're all upset or you're all disturbed, you're all whatever. You get done talking with them, you leave, you go, I feel much better, right? So this is prayer. This is healthy souls understand the best person they can go to if they're going to go into it all whatever and come out and go, that was better. Then they understand that that's God. They understand that they make a habit of going to God about everything. Psalm 138:3, as we wrap it up, on the day that I called, I love this verse, is so powerful. Listen to what he's saying. Listen to what he's saying. On the day that I called, you answered me. My strength of soul, you increased. What a statement. Healthy souls understand this. They talk to God about everything. And what you're doing as you talk with God, what you're doing is in prayer is actually this at the bottom of your outline. You're asking for more of God. You're asking for more of God. As well as you're asking God to move, right? You're asking Him to move. You're asking for things. But you're asking for more of God, and you're asking for God to move. So this is how, folks. This is how moms survive. This is how moms who have healthy souls. This is how they make it. This is how they make it when the kids are fighting, and when their husband is not supportive, or their husband has left. They go, how does that mom make it? Man, you ever see a single mom with 2 young kids? They're here. You ever see them? And you go, how do they do that? How in the world do they do it? Well, They got to take care of their own soul, or they're not going to do it. And this is how moms care for their soul. This is how they find nourishment. They go, how do you do it? Well, I make a habit of talking to God about everything. And God and I have a lot to talk about. You think back on it. Grandma, your mom, some people, and you wonder, wow, they were amazing people. How did they make it? How did they keep going? And see if they didn't spend a lot of time. They weren't talking to themselves. They weren't mumbling. Sometimes they were. I'm going to kill him if he doesn't, I get that. Healthy souls make a habit of talking to God about everything, because prayer is meant to be a conversation where your life and your God meet. Something happens there when you know God sees and cares, and you know He hears and answers. Your soul is nourished. Let's pray. Father, may we beat the path to you. All of us, moms and everybody else that raised their hand that isn't one. May we collectively beat a path to you on a regular basis so we can get air and nourishment and hope and healing and strength in our soul. In Jesus' name, amen.